Hi, everyone, and welcome to this next section of Athanasius On the Incarnation, looking at sections 9 through 10. Death had to be dealt with. The only way this could happen is by God, the God word dying. But problem, the God word is immortal, incapable of dying. Yes, God cannot die because God is immortal. God is incorruptible. God must then take on a body capable of death, capable of corruption, but he still remains incorruptible through the process of going through corruption, which is death. And thus, the incorruptible going through incorruption, necessarily corruption falls apart. Corruption, death is abolished. And so then, Athanasius says that this is done for all those who are like him, that death no longer has power for those who are like the God word. Now, what does that mean? Athanasius says, quote, through his likeness to all, the incorruptible Son of God thus clothed all with incorruption by the promise concerning the resurrection. This all is referring to all humanity because we were all originally created in the image of God. Thus, too, the work of Christ applies to all without exception. We are all given and offered this immortality, this incorruption, and so death no longer has any power over us. To help understand this, Athanasius used an analogy of a king kind of living nearby or moving into your neighborhood. Now imagine like today with Buckingham Palace, what happens with the security wherever the king is living. We see the flag that's flown over the dwelling of wherever the king is, and imagine the security measures that are in place when the king is absent versus when the king is present. And similarly, moving into section 10, consider the fact that we are the dwelling of the King of Kings. And consider how God thinks about us with that reality. And so this connects for Athanasius into the necessity of what God is doing, this economy of saving us, that God's own honor is at stake because we have made a mess of things. We have corrupted ourselves, turned ourselves towards corruption. And so then God must save us, not just that he loves us, not just that he created us, but also his name is on us. And so God's own honor is at stake in the work of salvation. He is working even not just to save us, but also to even maintain his own honor. And Athanasius also then illustrates this with three biblical passages. I encourage you to pause, read the biblical passages as we work through this. 2 Corinthians 5, verses 14 to 15. Notice a key line in that passage. If one died on behalf of all, then all died. So if Christ, the one who died on behalf of all, because of that, all have died. And so we actually did die with Christ. For Athanasius, this is going to be fleshed out and explained further as we move along, that we all have died in Christ, this participation in him, that he died and so we also died. And so it's not that this also in Galatians, I've been crucified with Christ. And so we, not just this mystical, oh, I've died with Christ. No, we actually literally have died with Christ. That's an important thing. Moving to Hebrews chapter 2, verses 9 to 10 and verses 14 to 15. It is proper that the one who made all things should be also the one to restore all things. So this connection between creator and recreator being the same person. And that has happened by God partaking of our existence. And because God is partaking of our existence, we now are able to partake of God's divine existence, which then leads into 1 Corinthians 15, verses 21 to 22, as death is certain, right? Through one man death, through one man life, the resurrection. So think about the reality of the certainty of death. All of us know I'm going to die. That is a certainty. And Athanasius emphasizes through 1 Corinthians 15 here that the same level of certainty can be applied to the resurrection and new life. As certain you are that you are going to die, you can have the same level of absolute certainty that you will be raised again to new life. And I will see you next time.